Hey, what's up? It's Patrick. Today we're going to be talking about some of our favorite portable dryer vaporizers from Dynavap. We've got some from my personal collection here that we're going to be sessioning, as well as talking about our favorite tips and tricks. Hope you enjoy the video and let us know your favorite way to enjoy your Dynavap. So first up today, we're going to be doing a quick bowl with my 2023 M+, and we're going to be using a butane torch. Now, just a quick note on butane torches. There's a fair amount of different options out here. Here we've got a triple flame torch, so you can see, it's kind of hard with the light, but you can see there's 3 individual flames coming up there. Triple flames give you a much wider area of heat, so they're often described as best for beginners because you don't have to aim the heat as accurately, and you do get a good even heat even as you move away from the lighter. Then I've got my single flame torch here, which you can see there. Now, I personally do prefer the single flame because you can be really precise with where you're putting the heat on the tip, on the cap of the Dynavap. So I do like the single flame, but when I'm using it outside, and there are some other circumstances that I think a triple flame comes in handy, so just really comes down to preference for you. So first off with the M+, we're gonna go ahead and get the bowl loaded. So I've got my flour ground up in my grinder here. And to load it, we're going to do something that we call the straw technique, which is just where you inhale through your device to load the bowl. The reason that we do that is it keeps your bowl nice and fluffy, it keeps a good amount of airflow between all the material in there, and that means you're going to get super even extraction when you start to vaporize in there. So I'm just gently inhaling, kind of poking the device around in my bowl, and then you'll see there's just a little bit overhanging when I finish that. I just go ahead and tap that off with my finger until the flour is even with the top of the bowl. And then I will go ahead and put the cap on and we'll set it down. Now, the other thing I want to mention is that you'll see we're using a magnet here. So we've got a Dynavap magnetic stand, but realistically, just about any magnet works. But the reason for that is it works as a heat sink. So between every hit on the Dynavap, you're going to heat it up until it clicks, then you're going to let it cool down until it clicks. Then once it's clicked on the cool down, you're ready to heat it up again until it clicks. Using the magnet makes that cool down click happen much, much faster. It's a heat sink. It gets all of that excess heat out of the cap, gets you that cool down click, and then you're ready to go in for a second hit. Then one other thing on this first bowl, because we're using the torch, I am going to give it just a little bit of a preheat click as well. So we're going to heat it up until it clicks once, and instead of going in and taking a hit, we're going to set it right on the magnet and let it cool down. That's going to get some of that heat into the flour so that the first time I go to take a hit, it's going to be nice and potent. So we'll go ahead and start roasting this like a marshmallow, just gently spinning, and then in terms of my flame, I'm aiming it kind of right for the N, between the N and the A in Dynavap on the cap there. And just gently roast it like this. You can move closer or further from the flame. The closer that you do get to the flame, the quicker it's going to click. The further away, it's going to take longer to click. So you see there, we got a little pop, a little click. And because this is the preheat cycle, I'm going to let it cool down instead of going in and hitting. And there we got our first cool down click. Because we got 2 little ones on the way up, there's the second on the way down. So now we're preheated, we're ready to go in. I'm going to do the exact same thing, but this time I'm going to hit it. So roasting like a bowl, I like to keep it a little further away from the flame so that the heat is a little more gentle, and ultimately we're getting more heat into the bowl. There's my first and my second. Nice cloud, good flavor. I got about a same size hit the second time there. I could feel it cooling down towards the end, so we went ahead and went back on the magnet, get my 2 cool down clicks, and we'll go right back in. Based on how that was, I think we have at least 1 or 2 more hits here in this bowl. It's really a balance of heat and airflow to figure out just how long you can take it. That was a good one. Ooh, and I can tell flavor-wise, that bowl is just about done. That was really nice. We got there in 2 heat cycles with the preheat, which is pretty good. So I will say the other thing to notice is that I was covering the airport there. So when you're pulling on a Dynavap, it's really just balancing how hard you're pulling the air through with how much you're restricting it. I personally like to cover the airport, especially on my M devices, my stainless steel devices, like to cover that airport at least 80% of the way, block it a little bit, and then just give it a nice gentle inhale. And I find that combination gets me the thickest, most satisfying vapor. Now that we've cooled down, we'll see if the tip is too hot to touch. Nah, we're good. Ooh, there it goes. And we will be showing you all of the ABVs here, just so you can compare all the different bowls. But for that first one, as I check it out here, it's got a nice even roast. I see that we got nice and dark on parts of it. We didn't get too dark anywhere. So for a very basic Dynavap session, I'm really happy with that. All right, next up, for our second bowl, we're gonna do it using my personal Omni. This is a titanium device from Dynavap, and the iSpire wand, which is a digital induction heater, so digital heating method. You can see on the Omni here, I have actually heat treated it to color it myself. That's just something fun about Dynavaps, is on top of them being very modular and your ability to swap parts from different devices, you can also customize them by changing the color, do lots of other fun things. So this here is my Omni. We're gonna get it loaded up the exact same way, so use the straw method, inhale into the bowl. The other thing I would highlight on the straw method is make sure you're covering the air ports when you do that, so that the air is only coming through the bowl so that you don't have to draw any harder than necessary. Alrighty, we are loaded up there. We'll just go ahead and use our finger to knock off any excess off the tip. Pop the cap on. So just like the torch, with the wand, I'm going to do the exact same thing where we're going to give it a preheat cycle, and then we're just going to heat to the click, maybe like a second beyond the click. But ultimately, I want to see what it looks like if we do very similar conditions. So I go ahead and insert it there. On the wand, you can see when that light starts to blink yellow, that's how you know it's recognizing the metal in there and it's starting to heat. So we got our click there. Go ahead and go back on the magnet for a cool down. You can see some residual vapor coming out. Gets me excited about the hit that's coming, but ultimately I don't think there's really like any more wasted here than any other method. And there's our cool down click. So we're gonna go back in, do the same thing, and then we'll hit it when it comes to temperature. You can see here, this is an older cap from my collection, and so this one's doing just a single click. It's not necessarily a new versus old thing, just that this cap I've been using for a while, and so it does a single click now. There we go. So that was a bit of a lighter bowl, lots and lots of flavor. I could tell that it was not as hot as our first bowl that we did with the torch. The beautiful thing about Dynavaps is if your first bowl is not hot enough, just do another one and you will get the material there. So we got our cool down click, we're going right back in. I am gonna push my device a little bit further out of the wand so that more of the heating is happening kind of lower on the tip and cap, further away from the clicking disc. Just to make it take a little longer before we get that click. And there's the click. And there's that big hit we were expecting. That was nice. It's getting just a touch dark, but at the same time, flavor-wise, I still think there's a little bit in that bowl, so we're gonna go for one more, but I'm gonna heat it kind of more right in the middle of the induction heater so that we get that click right on time, and we'll respect the click here because I can tell the flour is getting a bit more cooked. So we'll go ahead and pop it right back in. We're heating again. And that's what's really nice is if your first hit on a Dynavap isn't quite where you want it, just cool it off and immediately go right back in. And another good cloud there. Yeah, that's nice. And I can tell flavor-wise, That's getting kind of right to the end, but that was a really nice bowl. So you can see with the wand, it took us one more heat cycle than with the torch to get to what I think is going to be a very similar ABV color. But ultimately, that's kind of condition dependent. So if I wanted to push the device further outside of the wand, crank that heating up a little bit, we could absolutely get it to the same 2 device preheat cycle plus 2 cycles for that flower. So really with Dynavap, everything is customizable, and no matter where you end up, like on that first hit when it was lighter than we wanted, well, 1, you get the benefit of a nice, beautiful, good flavor hit, and 2, the second one is going to be like 50% bigger. So that second hit was definitely the biggest cloud we've exhaled all day. So we will go ahead and get our ABV emptied out of the Omni here. Nice. And I've just got like a little thumbtack inside of the cap here, but really like any metal point is super helpful just for a quick brush it around there and get everything cleaned out, get your Dynavap nice and ready for your next hit. So there's our ABV. Comparing hit 1 here versus 2 there, we are very, very similar color, like I would say almost identical. So you can play around with the heat cycles, but ultimately, once you have some experience with the Dynavap, we find you're going to end up there just about all of the time, because you can tell on the flavor and you can tell on the feedback you're getting from the device if it needs more or less to ultimately finish up your flower. All right, next up is one of my personal favorite setups. This is actually how I use my Dynavap at home, because living here in Colorado, I like just about everything water filtered. It smooths it out and gets rid of any coughing that I might have as part of a session. So here we have a 5-fin titanium tip, and then we're just running it through a 14mm water pipe adapter. I love this setup because your flower goes straight from the Dynavap, your vapor goes straight from the Dynavap into a glass stem, so flavor out of it is really outstanding. And then you do get the water filtration as well, so for anyone in a dry environment or who just needs that extra humidity and filtration, it's a really nice thing. Now I will say quickly, titanium versus stainless steel. Dynavap offers both. They're both really awesome, and we think they have just a little bit different use case. So for me personally, the stainless steel is better for the outdoors when I'm hiking or doing different things in the mountains. The stainless steel is going to hold on to heat for longer, so that's really a benefit if you have wind and environmental factors. It helps combat that a little bit. On the other side of things, the titanium tip here, which is what I love to use at home, it is going to heat up and cool down faster, but it also is going to impart less flavor. So really, really clean flavor coming out of it. You may notice that like your inhales during which you're getting the thickest vapor are shorter compared to stainless steel, but you'll still get the same amount of vapor out of a bowl. You just may do one more with titanium than you do with stainless steel, which is exactly what we saw in our first 2 bowls here. The M Plus was 2 hits with the torch versus the Omni was 3 hits using the wand. So now we are going to use the wand again. We're going to use this titanium tip, and then we're going to run it through water. So you'll really get to see that vapor come through, and also it's just going to be a very pleasant hit for me. Loading up the exact same way, straw method to inhale it into the bowl. Make sure we have a nice open airflow. Pop that on my glass. And then with it being on the glass, you just pop the wand right on right there. And if you have the tripod for the wand, you can even do this hands-free. I kind of prefer to do it with my hands so that I can adjust up and down really easily. But again, just lots of ways to customize, lots of ways to personalize. I think this one we're going to go ahead and hit on the first. Whew, that was an impressive first hit. So I got a bit more aggressive on pushing it further outside of the wand to get the heat lower. Because of that, really could go right in and hit it immediately, didn't have to wait for that heat up cycle. The other thing is when I'm running through this water pipe adapter with no carb, it's more of a restricted airflow, which to me isn't an issue when you have a water pipe. It kind of helps overcome that restricted airflow, but it does mean that you get really efficient kind of thick vapor coming out of the cap, and that's what we saw there. So Let's go right back into hit number 2. I'm poking the top out a little bit here, not quite as much as the first hit, just because of how powerful the first one is. I want to make sure we retain that flavor for the second. Whew. That was good. And that bowl is done. I can tell flavor-wise is right on the edge, maybe just a touch further than the others, but we're still in vaporization territory. And that was a really efficient session. Just 2 quick heat cycles and we fully extracted the bowl. All right, so let's go ahead and dump out ABV from that third bowl. Tap it in there. And then again, there's just a little pick inside of there that we spin it around. That is nice and dark, no surprises there. That's what it tasted like. So we will go ahead and dump number 3 right behind number 1. I think number 3 may be our darkest of the day. But you can see them right there. Yeah, I would say as you change the light, maybe number 1 is a quarter of a shade, a half shade darker than number 2. And then number 3 is like a shade or 2 darker than the other 2. So that one we really got very efficient extraction, really pushed it to the limit. All right, and now we have one final bowl we're gonna do to round out our testing today, just for science. So we're gonna keep our glass water pipe adapter because it's my favorite. But what we are going to do is we're gonna swap in a stainless steel tip. So this is the M+ tip that we're going ahead and popping over here. And then we're also putting on the armored cap. So the armored cap is a much bigger version of the standard cap. It has a lot more mass to it. And ultimately the purpose of that is to, 1, simplify the process. So we're gonna eliminate the rotating when we heat with a torch. You'll see we can pop this on our water piece and then just hit it directly with the torch. And then the other thing that it's gonna do is it's gonna retain a lot of heat. So we have been doing a really good job of kind of 2 to 3 heat cycle extractions today. I guess we did get to a 4 on that first round with the wand. So this one should really be in the 1 to 2 heat cycles. The vast majority of vapor is going to be in that first one, and then second one's really just going to be a cleanup. So that's where this comes in, and just kind of simplifying the process and also giving you the option for a more powerful experience for those that are looking for that. So, like we are used to by now, go ahead and load up the bowl by popping it in our grinder. Swirl it around a little bit, and look at that. Perfect load. We don't even need to knock it off with our finger. Pop on the armored cap. And then, like I said, we're going to be using a torch here. And I'm going to go ahead and not spin it because we're using the armored cap. I'm just going to use the torch in a stationary position. I will bring the torch a bit closer than when we use the other caps, just because it can hold the heat. So I want to get it more direct heat, no need to be slow with it. Just click. Woo! Almost outlasted me. Oh man, that was a really impressive first hit because you could see the cloud that came out, but the flavor, I would say, was on par with the first hit of everything else we've had today. It was like truly a green hit in terms of flavor. I'm getting all the terps of the flower, but then it was also that powerful. So like I said earlier, I think we got, call it 75, 80% of the bowl there. So when I hear the cool down click, we'll go back in for one other. This is really the cleanup hit. I'm gonna be pretty cautious with the lighter. We'll end right at the click to make sure we're not pushing over it. But I do find that a cleanup is helpful because I didn't push that as hard as you could. If you want to get it all in one, you absolutely can. You can adjust your heating profile, move a little lower on the cap, move the torch a little away from the cap. But the reason that I did it the way I did is I got basically 100% of the first hit flavor and then 70% of all the vapor in one. To me, that is just about the perfect hit, and I prefer that to trying to get 100% at one and sacrificing some on the flavor. So we got that big click on the cooldown. We'll go in here and just do one cleanup now. nice lighter vapor. I can tell flavor-wise we're done. I think we're gonna be somewhere in the middle in terms of doneness, because that third bowl we really pushed it. But I'm very happy with how that turned out. That was a nice, satisfying bowl. Alrighty, let's try and get the ABV out of there. There we go. That's better. Nice. We'll go ahead and plop down number 4 right there. And it is, I would say, very on par with 2. A bit lighter than 1 and 3, but all in, I would say all of these bowls are fully extracted, and the difference between them really comes down to personal preference, is how we would frame that. We hope you guys enjoyed the video. What we're really trying to show today is there's tons of different Dynavap models. There's lots of subtle differences between them, but ultimately I think all of them can provide a really enjoyable experience for any dryer vaporizer. I think if you look at the ABVs here, you can tell that it's a super efficient device that has lots of different options in terms of how you heat it and how you use it. So we'd love to hear how you guys enjoy your Dynavaps. Let us know how you set it up, which device you're using, which tip and cap you're using, and definitely let us know if you have any thoughts. We hope the video was helpful, and thanks so much for watching. Happy seshing.